I started a YouTube channel for one reason.
And what is your goal?
I just want to make quality content that people like.
You disappoint me. Stand up.
Hello Internet, Jojo here, and welcome to Idea Shock, where the ideas are as big as the channel itself. I didn't mean to roast myself. Anyway, today we're starting a series. I mean, it's not really a series, more of a 7-part series, I guess. Anyway, you know what I mean, right? But hearing me talk about unimportant stuff is not why you're here. You're here to learn about Mihawk, aren't you? Cool, let's go. In the world of One Piece, Dracule Mihawk is the greatest swordsman in the world. To hold this title is no small feat. The One Piece world is filled with master swordsmen like red-haired Shanks and Silver's Rayleigh. So the fact that Mihawk is the one to hold this title is even more impressive. And even though Mihawk has not appeared much in the story of One Piece, we can still find his powers and abilities. During one of the best story arcs in One Piece so far, the Battle of Marineford arc, Mihawk and Luffy have a confrontation. During this exchange, Mihawk accidentally cuts an entire iceberg in half. To find the amount of energy that Mihawk will need to produce in his attack, we first need to find the measurements of the iceberg. And to do that, we can do a direct comparison between the iceberg and San Juan Wolf. Doing this, we can find that the iceberg is over 450 meters high. From here, we can use that number to find out the other measurements of the iceberg. We can use these numbers to find the volume of an ellipsoid. Then we can divide that volume by 4. Following this formula, we can find the iceberg has a volume of about 54 million cubic meters of ice. Since ice weighs 919 kilograms per cubic meter, roughly about 2,000 pounds, multiplying these together, we can find that the iceberg that Mihawk cut would be almost 50 billion kilograms of ice. When Mihawk cuts it, the iceberg actually flies upward into the air. And we can make a good estimate of how fast the iceberg goes up. See, gravity accelerates at 9.8 meters per second downward, and the iceberg that Mihawk cut rises relatively slowly comparable to its size. So we can be conservative and call it about 20 meters per second. Using these numbers, we can find that the kinetic energy required to lift the iceberg has to be slightly over 2 kilotons of TNT, or about 2,384 tons of TNT. Still not the full extent of his power. Now, take a look at this scene and tell me what you see. Go ahead, comment down below when you see it, and why don't you subscribe while you're at it. It would be fun. Notice the distance. Mihawk cuts an iceberg that is over 2,100 yards away. This is over 21 football fields. Now, using the inverse square law, we can find that for Mihawk to deal 2.384 kilotons that far away, he would need to deal over 107 megatons of TNT at a close range. This is almost 50,000 times more powerful than the Fat Man bomb that America dropped in World War the sequel. To find kinetic energy requires two things: mass, velocity. And while I couldn't find any specific weights on Mihawk's sword, we do know that black blades are considerably heavier than normal blades, so we're gonna call it 200 pounds. So for Mihawk to swing a 200-pound sword and get 1,000 megatons, he would need to swing his sword 300 million meters per second, or slightly over light speed. And this isn't even an outlier. We'll see that when we get to other characters in the series. Mihawk hasn't actually been hurt in any fights that we've seen so far in the series. We don't know exactly what number to look at, or even who to look at. But we do know that he fought, drumroll please, red-haired Shanks. We haven't actually seen the fight yet, but it's very plausible to say that they were on equal terms, and thus Shanks' damage output should be roughly equal to Mihawk's defense. and because they scale to each other, I'm actually scaling Mihawk to himself. That's okay, right? That makes sense. I'm not doing something completely wild, am I? Dracule Mihawk is the greatest swordsman in the world, and by proxy is on a level above other swordsmen. But he's not only restricted to a sword. Mihawk is also confirmed to use 2 of the 3 types of Haki, and is theorized to use the 3rd as well. Armament Haki is used to harden weapons, body, and armor. It is used to both increase offense. The 2nd type of Haki that Mihawk is confirmed to be able to use is Observation Haki, and as Deathbattle describes it,
which in some ways is similar to Spider-Man's Spidey Sense. Zoro can sense the location of other people, even if they're invisible or far away, and can also predict most opponents' attacks.
And that actually describes it pretty well. Mihawk most likely has Awakened Haki, but we don't know that for sure, and regarding Conqueror's Haki, it would be kind of disappointing if we couldn't. Dracule Mihawk is one of my favorite characters in the entire story of One Piece, and quite possibly one of my top favorites in any anime. He's like a vampire, and vampires are really cool. Anyway, thanks for watching this. If you liked it, why don't you go ahead and like and subscribe, and if you have any suggestions, you can leave a comment down below. With that said, guys, thanks a lot, see you next time, JoJo out.